Hey, everybody, welcome to Ask Dr. Testosterone, starring Dr. George N. Touliatos and brought to you by his book, The Bible of Bodybuilding, available on Amazon.com. Everything you need to know about training, nutrition, supplementation, and of course, PEDs. And while you're on Amazon buying books, go ahead and buy mine, Real Bodybuilding. What a great book. And now, all the way from Athens, Greece, please welcome Dr. George Touliatos. Hey, doctor.
Hello, Ron. Good afternoon. I just got back from Italy, Apiro. I was really excited by the hosting of Panatta. You know, his hospitality was very genuine. He got me into his house, you know, the factory, of course. Yeah. And we had the chance of training together. Oh, wow. in his home and in his machines. You know, it's a gym around 500 square meters, his home gym, you know. Oh, wow. Around 50 machines over there, yeah.
Oof. I love that.
Yeah, and we train together with somebody who's, let's say, he's a bodybuilder who competes in NPC, and he's, part of his security anyway. And we exchange information about his nutrition, his supplementation, the way he trains, and about preventive stuff. So Panatta asked me to follow him in Dubai in 2 weeks at the Dubai Pro Show by Oxygen Gym. And I'll do my best to bring some picture for the muscular development.
Wow. Yeah,
All
Dubai.
right.
Wow, Dubai. Have you ever been to Dubai?
Never, no.
I mean, looks really cool. Like those futuristic skyscrapers and everything.
Anyway, and he asked me to, apart from the, seminars I will do next year, okay, because he's building a school, and I will train the students. He asked me to promote the equipment. And actually today, a patient of mine from Boston, Sacco, you know him?
Yeah, I know Sacco.
Yeah, he's interested to start to make a gym with Panatta. So, the first client rolled now.
Wow.
And it's great because many people following me and believe what I'm saying. And in the following week, I'll write to Muscular Development why I choose to train with equipment. So as we get older, we get more fragile.
Yeah.
And connective tissue and joints. And Panatta have perfect kinesiology. And if I had the ability to train with equipment, will be that. Yes, I will choose that from now on that I'm hitting my 50s.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's move to the show.
Okay, yeah. Congratulations. That's great that you get building a great relationship, because Panatta, they're legendary. Rudy Panatta is a legend.
With Steve also, yes. And Steve told me that he advertises as well.
Yeah. So, okay. This first question is a great one, because celebrities on gear is something that we'll talk about it, but here's the question. What are Dr. T's thoughts on the prevalence of PED use amongst celebrities, athletes, and fitness gurus? It appears that these fast transformations of muscle mass gain in very lean condition attained has become the rule rather than the exception. The number of these transformations or year-round conditioning would seem statistically improbable without pharmaceutical assistance when comparing to the fat-free mass index obtained and the fact that most people have average to even below average genetics. But let's really talk about celebrities, because we see movie stars all the time getting.
Yeah, when we speak about this topic, it comes to my mind Brad Pitt in 2004 in Troy. Okay, Brad Pitt was all time. His life, he was ripped. Yeah. He was the skinny guy that stick with abs, but he was ripped for a Hollywood actor. Now he was able to add a few pounds, let's say 10 pounds of solid mass. He was still ripped in Troy. And perhaps, why not? The guy gets 20 million in a movie. Why not to bring the best trainers? And also he trains with the best coaches, but also get assistance for his dieting. I bet he knew how to diet, but why not a little bit of PEDs, Right. And then afterwards they do the PCTs, the detox and stuff like that. Also, we have Christian Bale in Batman, 2006. He was 220. Yeah. Even though he was wearing the uniform, there was a scene that he was, his thorax it was like an off-season, but well built. Yeah. And also Hugh Jackman, I would say, in the Wolverine.
Yeah, for sure. In the Wolverine movies.
Yeah, but these guys were already fit.
Mm.
Okay, now in Ali, we had Will Smith. He was already he looked like a basketball player, you know?
Yeah.
And then he had a little bit of gear, perhaps, to do the character. So it's evident for some guy. Now, The Rock is exceptional because The Rock is already, he looked like a wrestler all year round, you know?
Right.
I bet he does more than H or T, but let's say he's the new Arnold, let's say, you know?
Yeah.
Now, Sly was another thing. He was smaller, but he was always ripped, you know, after he met Franco Columbu.
That's right.
Yeah, in 1981. In Rocky 2, it was 1982. Yeah. And the transformation for Rocky 2, it was obvious that he was natty, you know?
Right. I think in first two Rockies, he was natty.
Yes, he was obviously like a competitive bodybuilder.
Yeah.
Lightweight, of course. But in Rocky 1 and 2, it was obvious that it was no gear yet. Right. So it's part of the card. Yeah, why not? I mean,
here's the thing. I mean, it doesn't bother me because it's entertainment. I don't care if these guys are on PEDs, but the thing that does bother me sometimes is when they deny that they used any PEDs.
Well, they should, because, you know, it's something forbidden perhaps, right. And it's not the good example. And maybe they're not the ideal representatives to say that, you know?
Because, okay, you know Chris Hemsworth, he plays Thor in the Marvel movies?
Yeah.
So the last Thor movie, I actually just watched it for the first time last night, Thor: Love and Thunder. Chris Hemsworth, he's not a big guy. He's athletic built, but he gets bigger for the Thor movies. And you and I know what people look like on gear. He was definitely on gear in this last Thor movie. Yeah. And his trainer is very obviously a guy on gear. That doesn't make him a bad trainer, but he was so angry. He made a video, a TikTok or an Instagram, something where he said, we've never even heard of steroids. I'm like, really? You've never heard of steroids?
Maybe, listen to me, maybe this is what they're supposed to say from the production.
I guess.
Now, Mark Wahlberg, I'm sure he was my role model in the 90s, you know, Mark. Yeah. I wanted to look like him. And now he's phenomenal in 51, 52. Yeah. And I bet he does perhaps HRT. Yeah. And he also faces with Dan Solomon, the Olympic. No, he has no problem with that.
Right. And so I guess it's celebrities. That's one thing. We'll leave celebrities alone. But there are a lot of Instagram influencers. People have very large followings on YouTube, on Instagram, and they claim to be drug-free. But you and I can look at someone and say, no, you're not drug-free. That is not, that's on gear. That's on fat burners. That's, you know, we can look at a physique and we know if it's natural, if it's not natural.
Well, you can call them genetic freaks.
No, I call them fake natties because they're lying.
Yeah, okay. Well, you call them sarcastically genetic freak, you know?
Well, they have good genetics too, but the problem I see with them is some of these people have 1 million, 5 million followers, and those people are going to feel like failures if they work out and train hard and eat right, and they still look nothing like these people because these people are claiming to be natural and they're not. They're trying to sell some supplement, or they're trying to sell their training routine, or they're trying to make these people buy something, and they're making a lot of money on a lie. So that does bother me. I don't know if it bothers you.
No, when somebody, accepts the fact that he's on gear, automatically at the same time, it collapses his myth, you know, that he's a genetic freak, you know? Right. Oh, you're cheating. Oh, you're having this assistance, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I get that because anytime I'm very open and honest now. If someone asks me, you're on steroids, I go, yeah, I'm on steroids. And then immediately I can see they're thinking, well, it doesn't matter. Anything you did with training, none of that matters. You only look like that because of something you injected.
Okay, why don't you try yourself?
That's what I say. I say, go ahead, and especially because I was a natural bodybuilder for many years. I competed naturally. And I was very jealous of the guys on gear. And I thought, all I need is some gear and I'll be Mr. Olympia. I'll look just
go for it. Yes.
And I took a bunch of gear and I never
looked cheap.
I didn't look like that. I didn't become
remember when we hosted Michael Hearn and I said, Mike, I don't care what you're taking. There's nobody on earth taking tons of drugs and look like you. You're phenomenal.
Yeah.
Come on. I don't give a shit what you're taking.
Yeah. That's
the result is what matters. Okay.
Yeah. That is a genetic freak. Michael Hearn is probably one of the most gifted genetically gifted human beings that we've seen.
I mean, this guy is super strong and he has no injuries. I mean,
it doesn't make sense.
Just look at him, doing this.
Yeah.
It hurts just looking at him doing this with 300 pounds. Come on, man.
He's still doing 700-pound deadlifts, 700-pound squats.
4 reps in 4 plates. Come on.
He's 53 years old. My God. He's been training since he was like 12. So, all right, we'll move on. Let's get to a specific drug question. Does Masteron have anabolic potency in the real world? Some coaches even promote its use as the main anabolic compound of a cycle. But as far as I know, it was just like an injectable proviron or regular DHT, which doesn't really build muscle.
Yes, correct. So Masteron is considered as an androgen because back in the 90s, it was introduced in Belgium as an alternative therapy before the aromatase inhibitors were manufactured. So in breast cancer, you give androgens, okay, in order to compensate the rising of the estrogens. Of course, we know it's DHT synthetic that are standalone.
Yeah.
So it resembles the proviron that has antiestrogenic activity, mild anogenic, and it's not considerable to be good anabolic. So we substitute testosterone with Masteron because it doesn't aromatize, just to harden up. There's no major anabolic activity, and also described in the Bill Welling's book. And also it's very hard to find, so it's fake perhaps by testosterone propionate.
Yeah. So you can't really get, if you took just Masteron hoping to get big, you're probably not going to get very big, right?
Oh, no. I mean, you stack Masteron along with Primobolin and you get drier. That's all, and harder, but not bigger, Yeah.
So we always say test is best. That's what O'Connor,
But test produces estrogens. And when you want to lean out, this is not cool because you need to take aromatase inhibitors.
That's true. Okay. So Masteron and Primobolin, good basic cycle.
It's stacked perfectly well. The only difference is the half-life of the esters. One is propionate, one other is enanthate, but both do not aromatize.
Yeah. Masteron's always a short ester, isn't it?
Yeah, but there was also an enanthate occasionally, but the pharmaceutical grade was propionate.
Okay, gotcha. All right, next one is, I'm 50 years old, 5 foot. I think he meant to say something else. I don't think he's 5 feet tall, 180 pounds, very lean. Have been on HRT for over 10 years and use 140 milligrams of testosterone a week, injected every other day, 25 milligrams of DHEA, sustained release daily, 1.5 IUs of Neutropin HGH, and 0.25 milligrams of Arimidex every 3 days. In the last few years, my penile sensitivity and ejaculation velocity, shooting distance, have really decreased. Would adding HCG help? If so, at what dose and frequency?
Yes, absolutely. So the days of if you're doing every other day, testosterone, you can do every other day, 100 IUs of HCG, but also mind that could be also stenosis of the prostatic portion of the urethra. So check out the PSA, digital rectal examination, and you can use Cialis for this. If you have stenosis in the prostatic portion of the urethra.
What is stenosis?
Narrowing means narrowing. It's a Greek word, narrowing.
Oh, geez.
Okay, when the prostate enlarges, it squeezes the prostatic portion of the urethra, and then Cialis, because it vasodilates, it helps with that. So for the narrowing of the prostatic portion of the urethra, urologists also prescribe Cialis 3 times a week.
Okay, so I imagine if your urethra is narrow, urination would become a problem too.
Of course, this is one of the symptoms of BPH.
Oh boy, yikes. BPH is horrible. That's benign prostate hypertrophy.
Yeah, but it's a good scenario.
Okay, so a low dose of Cialis on a regular basis would probably fix all
3 times a week, 5 milligrams. And also for the semen production, yes, HCG.
Okay, cool. I'm just curious. 50 years old, you're not supposed to produce as much semen as when you were 18, 20 years old.
Especially when he is not introducing HCG. Yes, the balls downsize and then the cum is much less, the volume.
So if he gets on HCG, is it going to go back to what it was when he was younger?
It will start producing again. And the sperm also matters how often you ejaculate. So if you keep it 3 days or more, then the volume is increased. But also HCG, of course, plays a role to that.
Right. Okay. Next one's about Primobolin. Is Primobolin good for immunity? And which other steroids are good for immunity?
I have no idea about this. This guy answers the previous week, but for immunity, I guess the only good thing is testosterone optimization. Okay, because steroids, very anabolic steroids like Winstrol and Primobolin suppress the cortisol, which is catabolic, but cortisol is very important for immunity response. So that's why people who abuse cortisol, they have upper respiratory infections because the cortisol crashes and there's no good immunity response.
Yeah.
So just use testosterone because it's a familiar hormone. Do not abuse it, of course. Yeah. And for immunity, you can use other stuff like glutathione, NAC, vitamin C, colostrum, zinc. Okay, these are basic stuff for the COVID, for instance.
Yeah, I mean, was it you that posted something last week about a study that found testosterone actually?
Yeah, low testosterone is linked to higher mortality in those people who are hospitalized in the ICU of COVID. I was saying that since 2021, and the study was now, and I feel redemption, you know?
Yeah. I mean,
and I was saying that in muscular development also.
That's right. Yeah. But I mean, these studies take time, I guess. So it took a good
year. Yeah, but all those fuckers, doctors who were crawling at me, now they can sit over here, you know?
Sit and spin. That's what we used to say. Oh, man. Here we go. This is about diuretics. Hey, guys, aldactazine flattened out a lot of my guys. So this is a coach talking about his competitors. It flattens you out because the water comes out of your muscles.
Actually, this is not exclusive because why we're using aldactone? Because it retains the intracellular potassium. And actually, muscles do not get flat with aldactone. Okay, now if you super diurete, yes, but with Lasix, you get flat. With aldactone, not that much. The problem is it elevates the potassium. Now, thiazide is milder, okay?
Yeah.
And the problem, you know, thiazide is a combination of Lasix and aldactone. So what it does is a little bit potassium sparing, but also a little bit excretes the rest of the electrolytes. So it keeps a balance because usually coaches who are in front of aldactone use aldactone, but the day before the show, you have to use Lasix to get rid of the super high potassium because of your heart, you know, because it gets risky. So thiazide takes care of this and it's much safer. Now, if you use Lasix, you're going to feel super drained and lose sodium, potassium, all the electrolytes, you're going to cramp. If you have used aldactone, you're going to have trouble with arrhythmia. But usually aldactone is used in order to avoid looking flat, you know. You look flat, certainly with Lasix.
Well, I mean, answer me this, Doc. Any diuretic, it's going to cause your body to flush out the water, but is it selective? Because we want the water to go under the skin, but we don't want to lose muscle.
Yes, but if you overdo it now, I mean, like Bob Cirillo said, if you don't use wisely the diuretics, you're going to look flat and cramp also. Okay, so you need to have this final touch.
Yeah, it was I used diazide.
And listen to me. Yeah. No diuretic helps if you're flabby, if you're fat. Also, diuretics are not necessary in case you do perfectly well cutting the water perfectly well. So the first day of the carb loading, we need water to synthesize the glycogen. As we move to second day and third, we need to stop water, but abruptly, let's say from 3 bottles, go to 1 bottle. And then the day of the show, just half a bottle, okay? And also play well the game of the sodium. So the first day of the loading, you need a little bit of sodium, but then cut it, okay? And the day before the show, you're gonna see if you need diuretic or not. Okay. And usually diuretic makes the difference between the top 2 athletes, okay? Who are very close.
Yeah, I mean, I can say for me, the last time I used a diuretic in 2013, I got a little bit crispier in the glutes and the hams. I got exactly as ripped as I wanted to, but I got so flat everywhere else.
I remember that, yes. I remember. So you sacrifice the volume
right,
for this grainy look in the glutes, you know?
And I think it's, if you're a big guy with a lot of muscle volume anyway, maybe it doesn't matter, but I wasn't. So it really screwed me over. I probably would have been better off without it, but we'll never know. Okay, and our final question. Doctor, in PCT, does it matter when you inject the HCG, as in time of day, with the meal or empty stomach? Is there a best time?
I don't think so. I do it first thing in the morning and also my HCG during my HRT. Okay. But it doesn't matter. But in the PCT, you have to mind that do not mix together serums with HCG, because they go for the same result through different pathways, antagonistic pathways. So in the beginning, end with the HCG and then follow the serums. Some people do this simultaneously, and actually it's mixing for the brain, because HCG shuts off LH, and kicks the balls. Why the serums do the opposite, kick the brain, and then it kicks the ball. So finish first with the first part of HCG, and then stimulate the brain afterwards with the serums.
So the two most popular serums would be Clomid and
and always low dose. Come on, John Cleaser used to say that 12.5 or 25 milligrams. Some dorks are using 300 milligrams or 100 milligrams, and this is suicidal. You get the blur vision, you get elevated SHBG, you have horrible mood, because it messes up with the brain chemistry, and half of it is estrogenic, half of it is anti-estrogenic. So take a break and use low dose of serums.
Yeah, we had Thomas O'Connor and we interviewed a guy.
Yes, of course, who went blind. Yes,
he was like 22 years old. He went blind. I don't know if he got his sight back. I hope he did. My goodness, from Clomid.
And you have to know that PCT is just a kick. Yeah, father time is a healer, man.
Yeah. Let me add, and this is maybe a silly question, but if you don't do a PCT after a cycle, will everything just come back to normal on its own anyway, eventually?
Well, not that fast. It's going to take time, and you're going to suffer a little bit more.
Yeah.
And you're going to wait like crazy until your next cycle. We want to avoid this gap, this loop.
Okay. But I mean, say somebody doesn't want to do PCT. They're going to be miserable for a couple months, sure. But eventually, eventually, if they haven't abused, in a slower rate, though. Okay. Gotcha. Well, that is all our questions. Guys, if you're not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell in the corner so you know when we come out with videos. If you have questions or comments, please leave them in the comments below. We love all your feedback, good and bad. It helps us make for a better show. And Dr. Touliatos, thank you so much for taking the time, sharing your expertise and your knowledge with all these viewers around the world. Much appreciated. Arigato. Yeah, as they say. All right, guys, thanks for watching Ask Dr. Testosterone starring Dr. George Touliatos. We'll see you next time.
Right.